Oh, hello.
They're the most famous comedy gang in British big screen history.
Don't miss them, Val.
Their antics have put smiles on our faces for nearly 60 years.
I see you've got a little plaster.
They brought us sauciness, slapstick, and dollops of double entendres.
Oh, what a lovely-looking pair.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
But how did these classic carry-on moments come about?
When you see this ad-lib, that was 2 weeks of practice. It looked wonderful.
Oh, shut up.
This is the story of a brand that became a British institution.
Everybody wanted to do one because everybody knew how much fun it was going to be.
Good evening. I should give you a minute.
With unseen clips of the carry-on stars at play.
Marvellous. I never let her kiss me.
Extraordinary on-set photos.
Oh, my goodness. What's this?
And trips back in time for those who were there.
You just loved everybody. You know, you were at home and comfortable.
Too much in the sun.
When I was asked to do Carry On Abroad, I thought, I wonder where we'll go. But of course, we went to the car park at Pinewood.
Oh, they are great.
We were very, very fortunate to have a real ace unit of lovely, lovely people.
Ding dong, carry on.
Welcome to the world-famous Pinewood Studios in Buckinghamshire. This is where the carry-on magic was created. Today, Shirley Eaton, the glamorous star of the very first carry-on, is returning to where this remarkable story began.
Oh, I love Pinewood. I love Pinewood because it's my second home. And I'm really looking forward to it. Here we go. And there it is. Oh, gosh, what memories.
You the manageress? No, I'm Nora. My name's Mary.
Here we are. Like the old days. We're going under the arches. Oh, it's lovely.
Evidence of our favourite carry-on capers is everywhere at Pinewood, with mention of the men who made it all happen.
It's a lovely plaque of Peter Rogers celebrating him producing films since 1951. Because those films, my goodness, people have loved them over the years, haven't they?
No, stop messing about.
Oh, saucy.
Of course, you know, Peter couldn't have made such funny old films without Gerald Thomas, the director.
Peter Rogers and Gerald Thomas made their first film together in 1956. 2 years later at Pinewood, they would form a partnership that must have been created in comedy heaven.
Well, Peter Rogers really was a writer, first and foremost, and he always saw himself as a writer throughout his career and throughout his life. But he just became a producer by default, really. He would buy up scripts of other people's, eventually make them into films. And Gerald Thomas was an editor who'd worked on The Third Man and brilliant films of the 40s, early 50s, Doctor in the House at Pinewood. So they were a perfect team because they knew their business, they knew what they wanted to do.
Rogers and Thomas perfect the art of churning out films speedily and always on budget. But they also kept a keen eye on what was going on in the world outside the studio walls. This was the black and white Britain of the late 1950s. Memories of the Second World War may still have been strong, but a new generation looked forward to a brighter future where we'd never had it so good. Rationing and wartime hardship were finally over and national service was coming to an end. A new, more open Britain was ready for a laugh. It was time to put its privates on parade. After seeing that a comedy called The Army Game had brought in millions of viewers to ITV, Peter Rogers recalled an idea for a film about a bunch of raw recruits thrown into national service. Scriptwriter Norman Houdis was brought in to work it up.
We carried the characters forward into my conception of the typically British situation where a bunch of incompetents, resentful of being in the army at all. I mean, where's the war? Everybody's gone home.
Ow! Oh!
So sorry. I was miles away.
The title of the film would spring from a throwaway line.
Carry on, Sergeant.
By happy accident, a brand had been born. Rogers and Thomas looked to the stars of the small screen for their cast, with a lead role and opportunity knocking for TV personality and future game show host Monkhouse.
Did you see?
What?
Did you hear?
What? Where?
She called to me from a laundry van.
Bob's love interest would be the first pin-up girl of the Carry-Ons, 21-year-old Shirley Eaton.
I can't help being sexy. I think it's funny when people call me a sex symbol. I was the girl next door in those films, really. And if I happen to appear sexy, that's not my fault.
I'm Sam Grimshaw, and this is Corporal Coppin. Right?
Straight from a remarkably similar role in the Army game was future Doctor Who, William Hartnell.
Now, I'm a quiet, reasonable, humane man. I know. My mother told me.
Peter was good at casting, and he had a lot of luck.
That luck included the first Carry-On outings for Charles Hawtrey,
Sergeant doesn't seem to like us. I wonder why.
Kenneth Williams,
Look at this man.
You've nothing to complain of. Look at the suit they've given me.
and Hattie Jakes. And at the heart of the action, a 40-year-old fledgling star who would also become a Carry-On stalwart.
Oh, Nora.
The quiet man of comedy, Kenneth Connor was classically trained at the Central School of Speech and Drama in London. He became a regular on BBC Radio before starring on the big screen in the Ealing classic The Lady Killers.
Get him out of here! Driver, I insist that you do something to stop this vicious brute.
Now, listen, lady, this is no business.
Now, keep out of this, I'm warning you.
Connor's gift for comic voices also made him a favourite on The Goons.
This is the BBC Light programme.
Oh, my leg. It's gone below the waist. What's happened? Weren't you on the stage then? I've broken my right leg. Only one? Get back on the stage, Juliet.
Ken Connor was so clever. I'd worked with Ken on radio where he did dozens of voices. They only had to hire one person because he would play every voice that you've ever heard. He was quite brilliant.
Thanks to Kenneth and the gang, Sergeant was a surprise hit. It made its money back in the first weekend and became the third most successful film at the British box office in 1958. The groundwork was being laid for a comedy campaign that was destined to carry on and on. After the success of Carry On Sergeant, producer Peter Rogers and director Gerald Thomas quickly realised that they were onto something good. And if they could keep their eye on the pennies, surely the pounds would look after themselves.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at Peter Rogers as a producer, you would have to say cautious would be the first word that one would summon up. He didn't splash money about at all. He was conscientious.
Profit was king, and Rogers would take a royal pride in the Carry On film's low budgets and short schedules, aided by a sharp director who'd started out in the cutting room.
Gerald Thomas, clinical. He had edited the show before it was even shot, I'm quite sure. There was one instance where going to a door, and I said to him, when I get to the door, can I just turn round? And he said, no, as soon as you touch the door handle, I've cut, I'm outside and you're coming out. And he'd already cut that shot before he'd filmed it. And that was the way they were made. That was it, so I shut up after that.
After the success of Sergeant, Rogers and Thomas decided on a uniform approach for the follow-up.
Supposing I'd been on it.
In one of his shrewder moments, the adorable Mr. Rogers said, well, they're all screaming for another movie. Well, your wife's a nurse, isn't she? He said, so it's Carry On Nurse, it's obvious.
Who'd Houdis quickly turned to wife Rita for inspiration.
Over here, Mr. York.
And I did that script in 10 days.
You, given one of these before?
Oh, good gracious. Hundreds. Get it down now. Other end, nurse.
Plenty of material from Rita and exaggerated invention by me.
Hurry up, nurse. There are other things for you to do, you know.
Yes, sister.
The Carry On creators were quick to work out that the public loved humour from everyday life, sweeping up with a dose of comedy intended for all.
What's going on?
Patient's round.
I don't care if she's triangular.
To this day, everyone's got experience of being in hospital, so you base your comedy around familiarity, so you don't have to waste any time explaining what's going on. You can go straight into the bedpan comedy and you start getting your laughs.
After his debut in Sergeant, Nurse saw Charles Hawtrey tucked up in bed. The 44-year-old was already an old pro, his first film appearance being at the age of 7 in a silent movie. Hawtrey took his stage name from a knight of the realm, Sir Charles Hawtrey, and encouraged the suggestion that he was his son, distancing himself from his working-class roots. He grew up on the stage before venturing into the world of Ealing comedies.
He's up here, all right.
Yes, sounds like it.
No matter what I wrote, he would quietly put it aside and said, "Thank you, Norman," and then ad-lib about half an hour.
Charles Hawtrey would make 23 carry-on appearances, just one less than an actress who would become known as the First Lady of Carry On. Although a RADA graduate, Joan Sims found life as a jobbing actor tough and spent years in repertory theatre before finally breaking into television. She joined the Carry On gang for the first time on the set of Nurse.
Yes, sister? I thought I told you to ring the bell.
Well, I did, sister.
Then why are the visitors still here?
Well, I don't know. Crikey.
Joan Sims was a fascinating woman, and she was gentle, actually, very gentle personality, and genuinely funny off-screen.
And raising more temperatures in her second carry-on, Shirley Eaton.
You know, nursing training is right out of date.
What do you mean?
Well, they should have taught you that there isn't always a medical reason for a fast pulse.
Carry On Nurse, for me, was my favourite role and my favourite film out of all the carry-ons.
See that Mr. York doesn't fall over in the bath.
In Carry On Nurse, I discovered I was 2 months pregnant with my first son, which was terribly exciting, and all the cast were lovely with me. That's when the community feeling started between us all, because in Carry On Nurse, nobody was the star. Everybody was the star. It was really very shared. And it was a big cast, wasn't it?
And joining that gang was the suave, sophisticated Leslie Phillips, whose character Jack Bell would deliver the very first carry-on catchphrase.
Hello, chaps.
Mr. Bell?
Ding dong, you're not wrong.
This way, please.
I wrote it in for him, and he said, "Ding dong," and it stuck.
Mr. Bell! Ding dong, carry on.
With a combination of returning cast, catchphrases and surgical slapstick, the carry-ons were starting to take shape.
Not you, you idiot. Him. Look, I don't think I will have gas after all.
The laughing gas scene is beautifully acted. Kenneth Williams walks in, who has just learnt how to be a surgeon, supposedly from a book.
Better give him some more gas. We can't have him giggling all through. It's distracting. I agree. What's the matter with you?
Nothing. Let's get the knives.
And you get a real sense that they're enjoying themselves in that scene. Just, you know, blokes running amok, really.
Say, Oliver, well, what happens if anything goes wrong?
We have to amputate your leg.
But writer Norman Houdis had saved the biggest laugh till last.
We have to carry out just one final test. It'll only take a few minutes.
That's all right.
A now famous punchline was a late addition to the script thanks to a real-life story told by Houdis's mother-in-law.
She told me this joke, and we screamed with laughter. And I tucked it away.
Come in.
Colonel, whatever's going on?
Come, Matron. Surely you've seen a temperature taken like this before?
Yes, Colonel, many times. But never with a daffodil.
Comedy often is a question of remembering a joke rather than inventing it.
Carry On Nurse hit the funny bone, with British cinema goers buying over 10 million tickets. Rogers and Thomas swiftly signed a 5-year contract to deliver more of the same. The decade had been dominated by Ealing comedies like The Ladykillers, but by 1958, the fun-packed Carry On films had replaced them in the public's hearts. Ealing had had its last laugh. The way was clear for the new kid on the block. And a third Carry On.
Hey, take 'em the pea.
Like all the scripts that Norman Houdis wrote, there was a sort of social consciousness to them. And Carry On Teacher's main aim was about the punishment in schools and the caning.
There's only one thing to do to save yourself. Whack!
Extraordinary theory. You bend a trial double in order to give it an upright character.
And you think that's actually a really clever line, you know, in a film which is, you know, considered to be just a bit of a knockabout comedy.
After a bit part in Nurse, actress Rosalind Knight was promoted to head girl with a leading role in a new Carry On classroom comedy.
They offered me this glorious part of Felicity Wheeler, this very humorless, intense Ofsted education inspector.
Would you care to leave now, Miss Wheeler? Mr. Grigg can join us later.
No, thank you. On the very first day of shooting, they came up and they said, we're ahead of schedule, so we're going to film the scene with you and Kenneth in the physics laboratory this afternoon, where you see him and fall in love with him. I said, but I've never met him before. We've never rehearsed. And they said, never mind, that's what we're going to do.
Please don't stop, Mr. Adams.
Thank you, sir.
I was aghast and went away and had to learn the words, you see. They hadn't thought of that one hadn't prepared it because it wasn't on the schedule.
As I told you...
The camera was on Kenneth first, and I watched him.
I hope to arrange an outing to a suitable...
And I thought, oh, look, his hair's rather nice and curly. He's got actually very nice big brown eyes. And his nose. Look at his nose. It's a wonderful shape.
Settle down. Down now, please.
And I think that's when I learned to act properly. To hell with this posh drama school I'd been to.
Yes. My latest.
But it wasn't just Rosalind Knight keeping a close eye on proceedings. In Innocent Times, the British Film Board had the script under strict supervision.
Even repressing natural instincts. It's very unhealthy.
Even the very first one, Carry On Sergeant, there were issues with the censors. But the main problem with Teacher was the pronunciation of Joan Sims's character, Miss Alcock.
My theory of music teaching is...
Alcock.
But the censors were not happy, you know, but they got away with it.
Miss Alcock. Ding dong.
The interior sets for Carry On Teacher were created at Pinewood Studios, but the outside shots were filmed here at Drayton Green Primary in Ealing. 55 years later, Rosalind Knight is going back to school.
Well, it feels extraordinary to be back here. And this is where the beginning of Carry On Teacher was filmed. I do remember striding forward in an officious way with Leslie Phillips, sniffing out the building as an inspector of education.
How do you do? Welcome, Mr. Grigg.
None of us had the remotest idea that it'd be watched for years. It's absolutely amazing. Amazing. And here it still is. Even that it's still here is amazing. Yes, let alone that I'm still here.
As Britain said goodbye to the 1950s, fans were entranced by this new comedy kid in town. With another film already set to go into production, Carry On was ready to swing into an exciting new decade. By 1960, Britain was entering a colourful new era of hope and change. After 3 box office hits, the Carry-Ons had become comedy favourites. But a new member of the gang was about to take their appeal to a new level. For many, the man born Solomon Joel Cohen would be the nation's favourite Carry-On star. Although he would become known as the archetypal cheeky Cockney in film and on TV, Sid James was born in Johannesburg, South Africa in 1913. A hairdresser in his homeland, he arrived in England on Christmas Day 1946, determined to make his mark as an actor. After years in the theatre and revue, Sid James' on-screen talents finally came to the fore in the Lavender Mob.
Who are you? Oh, take those things away, I'm not hungry. Name a Lackery Wood, otherwise known as Sort of Steve, the Wandsworth boy.
James had become known to millions in television's Hancock's Half Hour. But it was his casting in Carry On Constable that would earn him his comedy stripes.
Welcome. Welcome. What a lovely sight, eh, Thurston?
Not half, Sergeant.
Looking at that performance, it's very atypical Sid. It's quite an authority figure. It's quite stern. It's quite grounded. He's a professional man.
It's just a routine police patrol. Yes, Sergeant. Just stay here, you lot, and remember, you're still on parade.
Flu epidemic at peak.
Searching for inspiration for the plot, writer Norman Houdis drew on the flu pandemic of 1958, with Leslie Phillips and Kenneths Williams and Connor drafted in as emergency special constables.
At ease.
I'm Benson, Sergeant. This is Constable Potter, and this is Constable Constable.
Who?
Charlie Constable.
Oh, I get it. That's your name.
Yeah, and I'm fed up with it. Everybody keeps taking the mickey.
Nobody will do that here, Constable Constable.
Oh, I'm very pleased to hear it, Sergeant.
Yes.
The film saw a welcome return for Charles Hawtrey, whose comic delivery was beginning to register with director Gerald Thomas.
Charles Hawtrey, even from the very first film, Carry On Sergeant, when he's sort of missing from the barrack room and he runs in, having been locked in a toilet somewhere.
I'm so sorry. Hello.
And Jerry Thomas was very quick to notice that that was a really good moment. So by 1960, Carry On Constable, they really began to milk that oh hello moment.
Hello.
Hello, boss.
Sorry I'm late, Sergeant, but I just couldn't leave home without bringing something bright and gay for the poor indisposed constables.
Sid James joined his constable colleagues on set for the first time on the 11th of November 1959, filming outside the Carnegie Public Library in West Ealing.
Now, Potter, you've got to try and pull yourself together.
Yes, Sergeant.
Every single thing you've done up to now has been a mess.
Yes, Sergeant.
One actress who would form a close relationship with Sid was his co-star from TV series Bless This House. A similar age to Sid's own daughter, Sally Geeson would also appear alongside him in later Carry On films.
It feels very special to be here today, you know, to think this is where Sid started his career in the Carry On films. Carry On Constable.
You're late, Constable.
Yes, Sergeant.
Why?
We had a bit of trouble with the shower.
Looks like I'm going to have a bit of trouble with the shower, too, doesn't it?
Oh, Price's innuendo, how witty.
Quiet, Gorse.
Do you know that originally they wanted Ted Ray for this part of the sergeant? Ted Ray wasn't available. So luckily, Sid was, and Sid did it. That was the start of everything. I think the public, the audience, liked Sid right from the start because he had this natural way about him. There was nothing pretentious about him. I think every bloke in the street would say, good old Sid. They could identify with him. And women would say, oh, he's just like my husband.
And I said, right, I'm off duty now. Anybody cares to come outside, I'll take you on, one at a time.
What happened, Sergeant?
They knocked my head off.
Sid was a fantastic actor, and he had this wonderful gift of being able to look as though he was just strolling through it. And of course, he wasn't really. But he came onto that set, and it just looked like a doddle to him, but it wasn't.
I have been in the force a long time, but I still remember the bloomers that I made when I was also as green as grass.
What's that got to do with it?
It's got everything to do with it. Sir.
I think Sid's performance in Carry On Constable was so great, he was just fitted in like a glove, that straight away Gerald Thomas and Peter Rogers said, he's the man that we need, definitely.
With 4 hits in 3 years, Carry On had become a firm favourite at the pictures. Soon fans were writing in with their own ideas, from Carry On pig farming to Carry On stamp collecting. But, keen to push his own envelope, writer Norman Houdis would find the inspiration for the 5th film himself.
Hello, hello. Isn't it a lovely morning? Anything on the cards?
Nothing.
There was an organisation completely like the Carry On Gardener's Office. It was called Universalance. If you wanted something done that was inconvenient for you to do, but not illegal or anything, you went to this organisation.
Helping Hands Limited.
Helping Hands Employment Agency had a variety of jobs to keep the cast of Carry On Regardless busy.
So we all had our own scenes, which was lovely, where we were disparate. You know, each one had something.
Over the years, the Carry-Ons would bring us many a bubbly blonde. But Liz Fraser was the first to take on the role. Well, she didn't have much on at the time.
You're so good.
Yeah, I was very slim then.
Yes. Doesn't look bad either.
That was a very funny one. I hid myself in a wardrobe or something when his wife came in.
Precisely.
Oh, well, can we just explain?
Helen, what on earth are you doing here?
Regardless had all the riotous hijinks of the earlier films,
I can explain everything. My braces.
but was also the first to have what would become a Carry-On staple, the slapstick ending.
I loved the end where we all hosed each other down and it didn't matter whether your hair was all right or your makeup. That was the last scene, so we had a ball with that. They just said, go on, fall over, hose each other. So we were quite vicious with the hoses. We'd do it right in the face of one person and then another. We were all slipping over. That's my favourite scene.
By the early 60s, Carry-On capers had become big draws, and all on small budgets. Regardless had been made for just £100,000. But for the next film, the producers really pushed the boat out for the launch of a Carry-On in colour.
We're moving. Oh, glad. Oh, hello. We're moving.
Following in the wake of a trend for cruise liner holidays, Carry-On Cruising set sail with some familiar faces on board.
Well, gentlemen, here we are just about to set sail on another cruise.
It's a lovely, colourful in more ways than one film.
Who are you?
Your first officer, sir.
Kenneth Connor, Kenneth Williams and Sid James are your 3 principals.
What are you laughing at? Nothing.
But one member of the gang had been left at home. Charles Hawtrey had demanded top billing and a star on his dressing room door, so was promptly dropped by producer Peter Rogers, who replaced him by throwing into the mix comedian Lance Percival at a fraction of the cost.
Blimey. Smells like a Babylonian boozer's bedroom. What?
The film might have lacked Hawtrey's hellos, but Sid James was still at the helm and in command.
Couch. Couch, not crouch, you fool. Get over there.
Like every Norman Hoodis script, there's a figure of authority there, and it's Sid James again, playing quite a serious role, really, again, with the goons around him.
To me, you look like designer on 6 legs. Prove I'm wrong. That's all I ask. Clear?
As day. As an X-ray.
As soup.
Playing First Officer Leonard Marchbanks was Kenneth Williams. The son of an East End barber, Williams discovered a love of music and poetry at an early age. Demobbed after serving in Singapore during the Second World War, he joined a touring theatre company before winning bit parts in films.
I suppose I should know that I'm on holiday.
Acting alongside Laurence Olivier in The Beggar's Opera in 1953. But Williams' comedy potential first popped up when he joined the cast of Hancock's Half Hour.
Good evening.
The series would give him his lifelong catchphrase.
I think I got another woman up here or something.
No, stop messing about.
Carry On Cruising would be the 6th of his 26 carry-on appearances. But filming, like many a part of Williams' life, would prove a disappointment. Williams believed the film would be shot on location in the Mediterranean. Instead, producer Peter Rogers, with his hand firmly on the purse strings, had a life-size model of the SS Happy Wanderer built on the backlot of a not-so-sunny Pinewood. Filming here would prove a challenge for leading lady Liz Fraser.
Well, that was quite funny because I can't swim. And when we were supposed to be swimming in the pool, I said to Gerald, I can't swim. And he said, well, you've got to do something in the pool. So I did some sort of backstroke.
I could never do that. Oh, seriously. Ouch.
52 years have passed since things went less than swimmingly for Carry On's Bathing Belle.
Oh, this brings back a few memories. G Block. That's where we did most of our filming. All the dressing rooms were down there. I tried always not to be next to Kenneth Williams because he liked it too quiet. I loved this studio and always had to be here very punctual so you could get here as early as 6, have all your makeup done. I'll see you later, okay? Now, this is one of the stages where we used to put all the sets. Carry On Cruising was done here.
You're always leaving that thing lying around. It's worse than a pair of gloves. Why don't you leave it in the cabin?
So the ship was here, and we were leaning over, and whilst we were saying, look, there's Gibraltar, it would have been over that side.
Who are you waving to? I don't know.
Oh.
Good evening, Miss Cribbins. Enjoying yourself?
Very much, thank you. Well, that's life. That's love. Women fall for the most unlikely creatures.
Quite an energetic game, what?
But it's great being back at Pinewood and hear the noise. Fantastic.
But when filming finished on Cruising, the journey was far from over. With a new lead scriptwriter at the helm, the Carry On cast and crew were about to make an even bigger splash. And exciting new territories lay ahead. By 1963, a new Britain was on a roll. Rock and roll, to be exact, as an emerging generation let down its hair and went in search of a good time. Meanwhile, over at Pinewood, the Carry-Ons were busy carrying on.
Gentlemen, really?
The first 6 films had been written by Norman Hoodis, but his era of community-based comedy was coming to an end as producer Peter Rogers, seeing a new road ahead, roped in writer Talbot Rothwell.
Talbot Rothwell was well known for writing comedy scripts for people like Arthur Askey and the Crazy Gang and those sort of people. So Tolly Rothwell and Carry On fit like a, tailor-made suit. They were perfect.
What's the matter with you? Can't you give a hand signal? Oh, veteran driver.
Leaving the colourful antics of cruising behind, Carry On Cabby went back to black and white, echoing the popular working-class dramas of the early 60s.
We're going to raid their yard tonight and put the whole lot out of action. What?
With sexual equality now on the cards, Sid and Hattie locked horns.
Do you call it fair to have a lot of starry-eyed bints driving cabs, pinching out fares by showing their legs and sticking out their big ends?
Look, will you just shut up for a
Which
moment?
side are you on?
There's...
Carry-ons, I mean, again, I think if you talk to the person in the street, they'll say, oh, it's tits and bums comedy and it's knockabout and it's slapstick. Well, it is that, of course, but Carry On Cabby, it's a feminist film, really, sort of kitchen sink carry-on, if you like.
But this was feminism with its face firmly on, and the first appearance for a future Carry On leading lady, 27-year-old Amanda Barry.
Well, actually, darling, do you think we really stand a chance? I mean, there are far more men drivers, actually.
I know, but the men haven't got your advantages, dear. Just flash your headlamps at them.
I'm ashamed to think of it now when I see those pictures of me, because we had these costumes which really suited some of the girls who were sort of well endowed. And I don't know what I had down the front of my costume. I really don't, because I've never been that shape ever in my life.
Into your cabs, girls.
Well, one thing I failed to tell everybody until the actual shot, when he said, now you drive off, and I went, I can't drive. I don't drive. And there was sort of that look of, oh, her. And then various people said, oh, we'll tow her out of shot. So I'm afraid the crew had to tie a great big piece of rope onto the front of my cab, and I went...
And pick up a gentleman, all right?
Of course, darling. I've been picking up gentlemen since I was 17.
What's that bloke playing at? What's he trying to do, kill himself?
Are you a taxi?
No.
Stopping the traffic in the first of his 11 carry-ons, a young singer called Jim.
Get out of the way, I mean... No, you must help me. It's my wife. She's going to have a baby.
My baby, I need you.
At 22, Jim Dale was the first pop recording artist to be taken on by legendary Beatles producer George Martin.
Be my girl. Aren't we anywhere near it yet? Well, it's not far now. You've been saying that for the last 10 miles.
Jeremy.
It's all right, I'm here, dear.
We're all here, dear.
I had great admiration for Sid James, and I had great admiration for all the other regulars. And it was Sid and I who had a few words together on screen. It wasn't a very big role. It was just fun to be part of that.
Are you absolutely certain she is going to have a baby?
Oh, yes. This isn't really very surprising, you know, because it isn't due till next week.
The British public hailed Cabby a success, and a year later, Carry On saw a return to colour production and another change of direction.
Watch your course, damn your eyes! You're all over the cursed sea!
With cinema goers lapping up period swashbucklers like Mutiny on the Bounty and HMS Defiant, 1964 saw cast and crew drop anchor for the first of their hysterical historicals.
Name is Poopdecker, sir. I have a hyphen.
According to this report, you have more than that.
It was the first costume drama, as such, and in colour. I think they spent another 12 quid on that one, at least.
Absolute daylight robbery.
I enjoyed it, I must say. Being my first one, I didn't know quite what was going to happen.
Keep your eyes tightly closed, Albert. I'm sorry, Albert.
Keen to give their period piece some gravitas, director Gerald Thomas recruited classical actors Bernard Cribbins and Juliet Mills for the leading roles.
I was very honoured to be asked to be in a carry-on, I can tell you. Everybody wanted to do one because everybody knew how much fun it was going to be. I remember getting the script and then getting to the midshipman outfit, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be hilarious with these, you know, with me dressed up as a boy.
Who is that up there, then?
Is it Nelson? No, he's got too many arms.
The uniform, it was very authentic. Tight white breeches, which got tighter as the film progressed, because I was actually 3 months pregnant when I started the film. I didn't tell anybody in case it frightened them and they fired me or something.
I'm terribly sorry about all this.
That's all right. It's not your fault.
Fortunately, Juliet Mills would escape the film's most testing stunts. But Cribbins wasn't quite so lucky.
Up the mast, it was like 30, 40 feet up. It's ridiculous. Where's the stuntman? You are. Get up. And I enjoyed swinging about on the ropes and all that, because I was quite physical in those days, and I enjoyed an awful lot of it, actually. Yeah.
As usual, sets were created at Pinewood Studios. But Carry On's new co-star also found a friendship developing out on location, with Frensham Ponds in Surrey standing in for the Atlantic Ocean.
Can't just lie here and watch you die.
Juliet was lovely. I hadn't met her before, and we just got on very well, you know, and we had a giggle and all that silly stuff we had to do.
You'd do it for me, after all I've done to you.
Bernie's a sweet, darling man, and it was just very easy to work with him, very easy to be in love with him.
It's just my luck, the tide's out.
And he's a marvellous actor, so it was a very happy experience working with him, yes.
Keen to publicise their now thriving brand, the studios sent photographers to capture life on set. These pictures for the press have become known as the Blue Books. Lain in a vault and unseen for decades, they now form a remarkable archive of life behind the scenes on the Carry Ons. Today, Bernard Cribbins and Juliet Mills will meet for the first time in 5 decades and get their very first look at photographs taken during Carry On Jack.
Well, here we are. This is Bernard Cribbins reporting from Frensham Ponds on a fine, blustery day. We did a scene here on Carry On Jack 50 years ago, and I think that was the beach where we landed.
It's land! It's stage! It's land! It's land! Come on! It's land!
There was Kenneth Williams, Charlie Hawtrey, Juliet Mills, and myself, of course. And we landed there after the shipwreck or whatever it was, and shot off up the beach here.
Come on, let's find some water.
Water? We've had quite enough of that.
I'm so excited. I haven't seen Bernie for 50 years. And now I'm going to see him. He's right over there. I can't wait.
Once the film had finished, I went on to something else. She probably did exactly the same. And that was it, you know, end of story. Yeah, amazing. I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
Take your clothes off, I love you. How are you?
I'm good, darling. How lovely.
It is 50 years.
Oh, I know. Isn't it shocking?
No, it's not. It's lovely. We're still standing up and taking notice.
I know we are.
Come on.
Oh,
we'll
it's so good to see you. I'm really thrilled to see you.
Do I have to hit you over the head again?
No.
I love you.
You love me? Oh, that's wonderful, because I love me, too. I mean, I love you, too.
It's a sort of a record of the films that were made, the Carry-Ons at Pinewood.
Oh, my God, look
There
at
we
that.
are.
Bernie, you were so physical.
Look at that, my pistol's falling out. That's how excited I was. I might steal this. I think it's got some lovely pictures.
It
in
has,
there, hasn't it?
actually. I never knew they made
No, I
records
didn't
of all
either.
the movies. There were a lot of sailors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you would know that better than me, dear.
Yes, I would. I was amazed to see what long hair I had. I never...
Kill them! Kill them all! Attack! Attack!
Next time,
Julia! I see you've got a little plaster.
how the Carry-Ons left them screaming with laughter.
This film is always with me because there are always people who are seeing it for the first time, and it's become a very big part of my life because of that.
As the gang burst forward towards a golden era of comedy.
At the count of 3, it was whipped off, and they were out.
Infamy! Infamy! after me! They've all got it in for me!
Following another full day of Carry On films, we will reveal who really came up with that infamous line. Carry On Forever Part 2 tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. All aboard for a final fling down memory lane today, off to the Med and a sea of double entendres in Carry On Cruising next.